This story is about my 1982 Honda Accord. This was a great car. Now, this car had roll-up windows, manual windows. It was a manual transmission, which I love. It's really weird driving automatic. I drive an automatic car right now, and it's so strange. I've had manual transmissions all my life. And this car had power steering though, so that was kind of nice to have power steering. And the steering on that car was really trippy because even my wife said it's the easiest power steering I've ever tried. You could just take your pinky and like spin the wheel. It was a really weird steering system that it had on it. But I want to tell the story of how I got it and what happened to it. We lived in Atlanta for a couple of years. But this particular part is in 1992, and I'm not sure which month. I know it was more toward the beginning of the year or the middle, but I know it wasn't toward the end. So shortly after we moved to Atlanta in 1991, around Christmas time 1991, I wanted to get my wife a nice boombox. Now, we had a couple of CDs at that time, but not a lot. CDs were around for a little bit, but they were still, $15 each, $18 each. They were too expensive, so I usually didn't buy them. But we had a couple. So I got my wife this stereo for Christmas, and it was a Sony CFD, and I'll show a picture of it. I want to say it was a 440. And it had detachable speakers. Most of the time, we had the speakers detached on the dresser or whatever, and we could play CDs in there or cassettes or listen to the radio. It was actually kind of nice for its day and age. And this has nothing to do with the car. It kind of does in a way, but because I mentioned that radio, I want to tell the story of how I picked that particular stereo. We used to live very close to a Kmart in Marietta. And my wife ended up working there later on, through 92 and 93. Before she worked there, I took one CD, and it was an Armored Saint CD. And I took it in there, and I had in my head, I'm going to take this CD, and I'm going to play the exact same song in every single boombox. And I'm going to turn each one all the way up, and I'm going to pick the one that sounds good. Now, obviously, when you turn them up, bass rattles and stuff, so I'll turn the bass down and stuff. I'll adjust them, but I want to play with them. And so we had just moved there from LA, and I go in, and I'm blasting Armored Saint. I know these hillbillies ain't never heard this music before, but nobody said anything. I went through the whole line. They're all out on the shelves, and I went through the whole thing, and I did it to every single one, the same song over and over. And I picked the best one that they had there, and that happened to be that Sony CFD. So it was pretty funny how I got that stereo. But anyway, the reason why I brought that up is because we couldn't afford the new CDs. So what I would do is go to pawn shops. Now, pawn shops around here and in Atlanta and in other cities are completely different than major cities like New York and LA. New York and LA, like in LA when we were growing up, you had to get buzzed in through the barred door. You had to show them your ID to make sure you were 18 to go in there. But like around here and in Atlanta and Marietta anyway, it's like a store. It's just like a store. They're actually kind of nice. You walk in, everything's organized. You have your tools and your stereos, your car stereos, your musical equipment, your video games, your CDs, your cassettes. So it's like a store. So when we were living in Marietta, I was going to these places because CDs were $1. Some were $2, but I was getting CDs for $1. Yes, they were used, but I would just take them out and make sure they're not scratched. I mean, you can't go wrong, as long as it ain't scratched, it's great. So that's how we started our collection of CDs back in the day. And by the time we left Atlanta, we had hundreds of CDs that we had acquired over the 2 years of living there. I'm going to all these pawn shops. And I kept going to the same pawn shops in the area. There was quite a bit, and I don't know, I'm just going to all the same ones, and they would switch their CDs once in a while because people would come in or whatever. So I'm in this one pawn shop. They always had these cars out front. And I'm like, I figured they're employee cars because they're always there, and I was like, hey, are any of those for sale? And they were like, oh yeah, these are for sale. And I was like, huh. And I was like, can you make payments? Because it's a pawn shop. You could buy stuff from a pawn shop and you make payments. So I was like, well, can I buy one and make payments? So they said, yeah. So I went through the cars. We picked out this Honda. It was 10 years old at the time because this is 92. This was an 82 car. And I had this piece of paper that they gave me, and I had to give them, I don't know how much I had to give them. I know I didn't have to give them 50% because usually you have to give somebody 50% of the value of the vehicle that they want before you can take it. I don't remember how much I gave them. It wasn't a lot of money though. But I gave them money, I gave them cash, and they gave me this piece of paper. It was a payment plan, and it had dates written on it. I had to go there every single week and pay. Not every month, I had to go every week at the end of the week and go give these guys money. So I'm like, this is cool. I think I bought it for like $2,000 or something. So every week, I'm going to look for CDs anyway. I'd go into the pawn shop, I'd look through their CDs, I make my payment, I give them my thing, they sign all my stuff. Sweet, I'm enjoying this car. This is great. In 1993, we were going to move back to California, and we knew when. We had a date we were going to move by, and we were getting all prepared and stuff. So I went to talk to these guys, the owners, and I was like, hey, look. I said, it's right now, I'm having a rough time. We're trying to get ready to move. We're going to be moving away. We're going out of state. Now, I have this car. I owe them money. I can't, if I leave, they're not, I don't think they would have liked that. But I told them, I said, hey, if you work with me, let me skip some payments. Let me come in here next month. I'll give you this amount of money. Let me skip another month and I'll give you this amount of money. Let me skip another month. I'll give you the balance. I will finish paying this off in like a couple months. And they were like, okay, we'll do that for you. And I was like, really, you would? And they were like, they said, you're the only person that's ever paid all his payments on time. And I was like, wow, that's pretty funny. I mean, I don't want him to come grab the car, So I was like, that's kind of funny. I said, okay, I will be here on this date and I'll have this amount of money. And so I did that. I went back with that. I did it again. And then on the very last one, I brought the balance. And I always paid these dudes cash. So I go in there and I was like, hey guys, here's my sheet. Here's my last payment. Here's all your money. And I said, I need to know about the paperwork because we're moving out of state, which I told them before, and they knew. And I said, I need all the paperwork so I can go get all this stuff changed into my name and stuff because I'm taking this car back to California with me. I wasn't going to sell it. We were going to take it. We put it on a tow dolly behind the moving truck and, we just pulled it. And they said, you know what? Because you're the only person that ever made all his payments on time, we knew you'd be coming back on this day. We knew you were a man of your word. I don't know how they did this. They had all the paperwork in my name ready to go. I had the title in my name. I had the registration in my name. Now, I don't know how you can do that. Now this is back then. Things are different now. This is, 93. So things are different now, but somehow, I don't know Atlanta's laws either. They had all that stuff ready to go, and I was just blown away that they did that for me. That was so cool. And I loved it. And we ended up bringing that car back to California, and we had that car. We drove it to like 320,000 miles or something before it died. Now, it sat in the backyard for a very long time. It sat there for a good couple years because I really wanted to fix it. I was emotionally attached to it. But because we used it so much. We loved that car. We used it, and that's what you should do with a car. Use your car. Don't let it be a garage queen. It was, when you looked on the inside, it had duct tape all over the door handles, and it was falling apart. But that's because we used to throw bikes in there. You know, when Brian was little, he'd be in his car seat back there eating. You know, eating and drinking in a car will totally ruin it. But we used that car. We went all over the place in that car. We used it. We loved it. We loved that car. That was a really good car. After it sat in the backyard for a couple years, we finally decided we got to get rid of it, and I'm not going to fix it. I will show footage of it getting pulled up onto the tow truck where we gave it to one of those donation places, and they came and grabbed it, and I will show it driving away, and that is the end of this story, and we missed that car. Bye, Honda Accord. You were a very good car to us. We loved that car.